Is Steve Witkoff playing some sort of 4D chess here, or is he a liability for the president?
Look, I think Steve Witkoff is doing what the president is asking him to do, which is to bring him deals. He was obviously very effective in the Middle East. We know he had an important role to play in the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. And I think that gave him a lot of credibility. And I think he wanted to use that momentum to try to bring the president his long-desired, long-awaited deal to settle the war between Russia and Ukraine, which was the president's top priority when he came into office, and we still don't have a deal there. So I think Witkoff is trying to bring the president what he wants. Unfortunately, I think that there's very little parallel between Gaza and, of course, Russia's war against Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Curious to hear what you make of the revisions in this peace plan that brought it reportedly from 28 points to 19 points, and in fact removed a number of contentious issues like Ukraine's eligibility to be a member of NATO. President Zelensky said last evening that peace is doable, is the word he used, under the terms of the revised plan. What do you think?
Look, the Ukrainians are the victim here. They didn't ask for this war. Russia is the aggressor. That is crystal clear. Mm-hmm. I think at every step of the way over the last almost 4 years of the war, nobody has wanted peace more than Ukraine and more than Zelensky. It's their people who are suffering the brunt of these incredibly and increasingly brutal Russian attacks on civilians, some of the ones that you were talking about earlier in the program. I think the obstacle to peace, despite the readout from the Witkoff call, Ushakov, is that Putin and Russia are the obstacles to peace. Because at the end of the day, I think the main difference here, again, between the Middle East and the Russia-Ukraine war is that Putin sees this as his historical legacy. And until he is pressured to change his ways, to change his strategy, he will stop at nothing to dominate Ukraine. Unfortunately, I think right now, all of the pressure is on Ukraine, and they are conceding, I think, some very major things, including potential concessions on territory, including potential concessions on the future of Ukraine and what, troops, weapons will be able to be positioned in Ukraine, et cetera. We don't know all the details yet, but it's Russia that is unwilling to make any concessions away from this unacceptable 28 points that was leaked earlier in the week.
And so there are great questions about the source of the original document and exactly what the White House's posture is when it comes to dealing with both sides, because the presumption has been, and you can look at the summit in Alaska as some evidence of this, that the president is more open to talking to Vladimir Putin and, in fact, puts the burden on Volodymyr Zelensky. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, was asked about this at the White House. Here's what she said.
The idea that the United States of America is not engaging with both sides equally in this war to bring it to an end is a complete and total fallacy. And I saw a lot of misinformation and rumors and allegations against people in this building, such as Secretary Rubio and Special Envoy Witkoff and the president himself, that they are favoring one side over the other. That could not be further from the truth. I have watched as the president and his team have worked around the clock overnight with both sides on endless phone calls, endless meetings to try to bring this war to a close.
I don't know if you agree with that, Alina, but do the revisions bring that closer to the truth?
Well, I actually think that it's true that the president has made this a priority. And I've been frankly surprised to see how much time, personal time, and also the time of Secretary of State and many other government officials have been spent on trying to bring some sort of resolution to the war. We saw this previously in the spring, another round of negotiations. I think I'm just very skeptical and pessimistic that the administration will be able to get there, because my prediction here is that they're going to take this plan. Maybe Witkoff is taking the plan to Putin when he goes to Moscow, and Putin is going to look at it and say no. The reaction in Russia to the 28-point plan that, incited a lot of, I think, disappointment, sadness, whatever the right word is, in Europe and Ukraine. The Russians weren't even happy with that because they didn't feel like that really achieved their maximalist goals. So they're not going to be happy with the revision to that. That is clear. So again, I just go back to the point that until the Russians are forced to change course, they will not change course. And I think the White House and the president have a lot of leverage there that they can still use. Some of the sanctions that the administration announced earlier in the year in Russia's energy sector, that would really put the pressure on. I think allowing Ukraine to have some of those long-range capabilities to hit Russian energy infrastructure as well as military targets would put the pressure on. And I think this is where we're probably going to end up eventually because Putin will keep saying no to the White House proposals.
You grew up in Kyiv, Doctor. Are you hopeful that this war ends before the end of the year? Or are you skeptical?
I am skeptical. I actually grew up in the Soviet Union. We immigrated to this country when I was a child, and I've been to Ukraine many, many times since then. I've been to Russia, not in recent years, but before that. So I know the region exceptionally well, and I think it's been, difficult to watch the destruction of Ukraine, a society that was really booming, growing, developing economically. That's the breadbasket of Europe, that has incredible culture to contribute, incredible ideas, innovation. Obviously, we've seen that on the battlefield, the innovation of the Ukrainian people. And I think there's a huge opportunity in Ukraine, both for the United States and in Europe, the innovation they've brought, the capabilities they have. And so I hope not just for the Ukrainian people, but really for the world, that this war ends in a sustainable peace. But I think the only way that's possible is, unfortunately, it's going to have to be with U.S. security guarantees. Europe is stepping up, but at the end of the day, there's no substitute for what the United States can do to provide a security guarantee to Ukraine.